You have seen this video before. An ancient wonder, a dramatic voice, 30 minutes of buildup, and an ending that just shrugs and says nobody knows. So here is a promise. No lasers, no aliens, no shrug. Just one quarry in Egypt, one stone harder than steel, and one detail nobody can explain. The tool that made these cuts has never been found. Not broken, not buried, gone. Start with the stone because the stone is the whole problem. This is not soft limestone or crumbling sandstone. This is Aswan granite, the red and pink rock the Egyptians prized above everything else. On the Mohs hardness scale, the quartz locked inside it sits around a 7, close to the point where ordinary steel gives up. And the only common things harder than it are corundum and diamond, the grit we build industrial grinding wheels from. That is the neighborhood we are standing in. Even today, cutting this rock is treated as serious industrial work. Now look at what is actually carved into it. Long, curved grooves sweep across the surface in near identical spacing, scooped out as if something rolled through the rock in one smooth, unbroken motion. Early observers said the marks looked nibbled, as though a machine had taken clean bites. In places, the arcs flow into each other like ripples on still water. No jagged breaks, no scattered chaos. None of the stuttering mess a tired hand leaves behind. People who cut stone for a living lean in, go quiet, and ask the same thing every time. Are these really thousands of years old? Because at first glance they look like the work of a modern shop. And that instinct, that quiet feeling that something here does not belong, is exactly where the whole thing starts to come apart. For over a century, the answer has been comfortable and specific. No mystery tools. The Egyptians used dolerite, a volcanic rock harder than granite, shaped into round balls weighing about 5 kilograms each, 15 to 30 centimeters across. Thousands of them still litter the site. Workers lifted them and slammed them down, hour after hour, pulverizing the granite into powder one blow at a time. By hand, that grind removes maybe 5 to 10 cubic centimeters of stone in an hour, which is almost nothing when the target block weighs more than 1,000 tons. For the finer work, copper tools dragged through wet quartz sand did the smoothing. To split a slab free, they carved a line of slots like a perforation, drove in wooden wedges, and soaked them until the swelling wood cracked the granite along a chosen plane. There is even evidence of fire, charcoal, ash, and scorched brick, hinting that heat helped shatter the outer skin. This is not a fringe guess. Archaeologists like Mark Lehner built the case on real artifacts, and PBS filmed people reproducing the method by hand. On paper, it holds. Hatshepsut herself boasted that one of her Karnak obelisks was cut and raised in 7 months. Put 20,000 workers on an impossible task, give them years, and the impossible slowly becomes reachable. That argument deserves respect. The trouble only started when a few researchers stopped defending the theory and decided to actually test it. They built the pounding tools the textbooks describe. They brought in strong, skilled craftsmen and struck granite blocks thousands of times, exactly the way the story lays out. Everyone expected the stone to slowly take on that same ancient look. It did not. The marks came out rough and uneven. Some bites cut deep, others barely scratched. Edges crumbled in one spot and splintered in the next. There was no clean spacing, no graceful curve, just the honest mess of human effort. And the revealing part was not that it failed, it was how it failed. The harder the men worked, the messier the stone got. Speed added error instead of removing it. Fatigue crept in within the first hour. Grips loosened. The angle of every swing drifted, because that is simply what a living body does. That drift is not a mistake. It is biology. Now set that mess beside the real marks at Aswan, and the contrast is almost violent. The quarry cuts look like a single tool moving in one steady direction at a constant speed, hundreds of times, without ever getting tired. That is the exact point where the textbook and the stone stop agreeing. So researchers tried something different. Instead of trusting human eyes that already expected hammers, they handed the evidence to a machine. High-resolution and multispectral images of the quarry walls were fed into Grok AI, and reportedly, it was told nothing. Not the country, not the tools, not the answer anyone wanted. Its only job was to measure curve, arc, depth, and the angle at which the tool met the stone, compared against thousands of tool signatures, ancient and modern. According to the breakdown that spread online, the variation across hundreds of separate cuts came back at just over 4%. Sit with that. Good modern hand tools normally wander somewhere between 12 and 20%, because a person is not a machine. Yet here were cuts scattered across a working quarry, holding tighter than a trained human hand should ever manage, with entry angles said to vary by less than 2 degrees from one end of the site to the other. And there was more under the lens. Reportedly, the cut faces show a clean shear, a sharp boundary between worked and untouched stone, with almost no cracking running down into the rock, which is the opposite of what pounding leaves behind. Some samples even turned up hard corundum grit and faint spiraling marks, as if a spinning blade had passed through. When the system was asked what came closest, it reportedly did not land on hammers. It landed on rotary cutting, the kind of controlled, tireless process we tie to modern industry. Whether you trust that number or not, the question it leaves is heavier than the answer. Because here is what the neat theory cannot bend around. A dolerite ball only works if you can swing it. A worker needs real room, something like 18 to 24 inches of clearance, to draw the stone back and bring it down hard enough to matter. Take away the run-up and the momentum vanishes. A ball pressed against granite with no arc does almost nothing. The whole method depends on space to lift and drop. Now go to the unfinished obelisk, the largest ever attempted, 42 meters long, around 1,200 tons, still lying attached to the bedrock where a crack killed the project 3,500 years ago. Walk down into the narrow trenches around its sides, into the tight corners and vertical faces where a person can barely stand upright. There is no space to swing anything, and yet, the same smooth, curved, evenly spaced cuts run right through those cramped zones without losing an ounce of control. Worse, on that obelisk, the cutting marks continue past the fatal crack. If the crack is why they walked away, the marks should stop there. They do not. Work went on after the stone had already failed. The quality never drops, even in the lower sections where the space narrows to almost nothing, exactly where, by every rule of the hammer theory, it should collapse completely. Then the timeline turns the knife. Everywhere else in history, technology climbs. Early work is crude, later work is refined. Roman drill holes at Aswan are easy to spot precisely because they look rougher and more mechanical than the marks around them. But scattered across the quarry are faded paintings in red ochre, and here is the detail that unsettles people. Some of them sit directly on top of the cutting marks. The stone was cut first, and only much later did someone paint over it. When those paintings are dated, a few researchers have reportedly placed them nearly 2,000 years before the early dynastic Egypt we know, which would drag the cuts beneath them back into a time when, by the textbook, only small scattered groups with the simplest stone tools lived here. So the oldest cuts are reportedly the most perfect of all. The further back you go, the cleaner the work. Move forward toward us, and it gets clumsier. That runs backward. It means the people at the very beginning already knew something the ones who came after slowly forgot. If a civilization could do this, at this scale, in this stone, where did the skill go? Nobody inherited it. Nobody scaled it up. It simply thins out and disappears, as if a door quietly closed and the key was thrown away. Which brings us back to the promise. Forget for a moment how the cuts were made, and ask where the thing that made them went. The site is drowning in dolerite balls, the official tool, the one that provably cannot reproduce these arcs. But the tool that could, the one the marks actually point to, has never been found. Not a fragment, not a broken blade, not a single worn part anywhere in Egypt. And no drawing, no inscription, no whisper of such a machine in the civilization that wrote down almost everything. And it is not just this quarry. Run the same cuts against the Valley Temple of Khafra at Giza, built from these very Aswan blocks, and reportedly the microscopic signature matches again. Same clean shear, same faint spinning marks, hundreds of kilometers away. One skilled workshop you could explain away. A whole region sharing one method and one missing tool is a standard, and standards do not vanish by accident. For scale, remember the biggest obelisk they ever did raise, the Lateran in Rome, weighs about 455 tons. This abandoned one is nearly 3 times heavier. So a hard truth sits in that quarry. The marks are still there. The tool that left them is not. And every year, a few more people walk up to that stone and feel the floor tilt. Lost technology, dating error, or something we can't name yet? Tell me below, then subscribe for the next one.